All right, folks. I guess we're getting back into it here, trying to get into some kind of rhythm. I don't know if we're going to have two shows today. We'll worry about that when we get there. For now, welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Vespris, and this is your big weekend in review show. It's the reverse chronological lightning round Monday edition. We'll go backwards through the weekend, touch on every single team. Sunday back to Saturday. I think there was really only one team that didn't play Saturday or Sunday, if I'm remembering correctly. And we'll get you all the biggest stories from all of those teams as they played. Find me on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DanBesbris. Please take a moment to hit that like button on the video. Subscribe to our channel, and also please pre-like our trade deadline live show that is over at our YouTube page. Really want to get to 1,000 pre-likes. We lost a week of pre-liking because of these godforsaken fires, but at least things are starting to inch back, I guess, a little bit towards normalcy. You guys kind of know the drill at this point. We're going to go through the box scores one by one. We'll take it piece by piece. We'll give you all the information. Let's get cooking. Milwaukee at New York. That was the early game on Sunday. Again, we'll go backwards. I know Chris Middleton had a better ball game here, but overall, I don't really like this bench Middleton thing. And I don't know how long it's going to stick. I'm hoping not forever, because he was actually doing pretty well for a little stretch there. Yes, it was a blowout. He probably would have seen another 3, 4, something like that minutes if this game was tighter. It wasn't. So, we'll see. I benched him in Roto. Head-to-head, you hang on. Brook Lopez, a little bit of a buy low window off a bad ball game here. Bobby Portis has not surprisingly cooled after his torrid stretch. There's really nothing on the Knicks side. Mikal Bridges has cooled off. No surprise there. He had that furious run around Christmas. Now he's sort of fallen back to number 86. It's the ebb and the flow. Do I want Mikal Bridges if I had to pay top 90 for him? Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I'm good with that. Guys, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for this new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Denver at Dallas. Aaron Gordon back, came off the bench, played 18 minutes. They're going to go pretty gentle with him coming off of this calf injury. We've seen a lot of guys in the NBA re-aggravating stuff. So Denver wisely, my sounds are off, but I'm pretty sure that my phone just made a noise on that one. They'll go easy on him. Russell Westbrook continues to be a must start in all formats. Keep one eye on Christian Brown. He and Michael Porter Jr. each actually saw their minutes shaved a bit. Peyton Watson and Julian Strother picked up a few extra minutes in this game. I think I would still stick with the kind of start the starters thing. If Aaron Gordon displaces Westbrook, I would not immediately drop Russ. He's doing a lot right now. And I'm not dropping Christian Brown yet. I'm not convinced that I have to hang on forever. He's down to number 82, but he was always at kind of an unsustainably high marker at the beginning of the year anyway. As far as Dallas goes, things have gotten progressively more and more confusing. Najee Marshall now has become a fixture in the starting lineup. Spencer Dinwiddie is starting again. And Jason Kidd is doing this mix and match thing, but none of the mixes are matching in that, other than the Laker game, where kind of looking back, you're wondering if maybe the Lakers were perhaps a bit distracted by the fact that their homes were burning down. Maybe had something to do with it. Other than that ball game, the Mavs have lost basically every game that they haven't had Luka and Kyrie together for. And you can understand why. They're not very good without Luka and Kyrie. Picture your favorite team losing their best two players. Other than the Orlando Magic, I don't know how anybody stays competent in those spots. So what do we do? PJ Washington is a start. Derek Lively is a start. Those are the very easy decisions in all of this. it seemed like Quentin Grimes and Klay Thompson were forming that sort of next chunk of players. But then Grimes was awful in this ball game. Played 19 bench minutes and really didn't get to do much of anything. Instead, we got extra Najee Marshall in this one, whose fantasy game was fine in this ball game. He had a pretty good one here, but overall, Najee Marshall's fantasy game is extremely limited. He's generally a points, threes, and some rebounds guy. That doesn't translate particularly well to 9-cat. Klay Thompson's game translates a little bit better to 9-cat just because he's hitting a lot of three-pointers. But is it enough in this alignment? I mean, the fact that he took 19 shots here was a pretty good sign, but he hasn't been super consistent even with the superstars out. I think I'm a yes on Klay. It's kind of my stance since the preseason. You guys remember preseason, I said, I don't think Klay's a start unless one of the superstars is out. And right now they're both down. I don't think I'm starting Najee Marshall outside of good scheduling spots. So again, sort of little corollary here. When I say I'm not starting someone, I'm talking about games cap. So obviously, if the schedule is good, you can start Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, Quentin Grimes, even Jaden Hardy on some games. That's like the 150, the filler level range. Anything up to the top 150 you can start if the schedule is good. If you're talking about who do you hold for a long stretch or the rest of season type plays or the rest of injury type plays or the games cap plays, to me, that's top 100 and better. And those guys right now are obviously Lively, who's been great. He had 8 assists in this game. 5 of them, by the way, were to Klay Thompson. PJ Washington is obviously a rest of season guy. And then I think I'll throw Klay in there as well. Sacramento won again. This new coaching bump has really kicked in hard. But the bad news here, I guess if you want to call it that, the good news is De'Aaron Fox came back. The bad news is that he took Keon Ellis's minutes and didn't give them back. The hope was that we would get, most of the starters playing in the mid-30s, and then Keon Ellis maybe sort of piecemealing together like 12 from point guard spot and 14 from the shooting guard spot and maybe a couple small forward minutes, and that could get him up to like 26 or 27. Nope. Keon Ellis, 19 and a half minutes, 8 points and a steal. 19 and a half minutes ain't close to enough. Deep sigh. If you wanted to hold on to him for one more ball game, you could. The Kings play on Tuesday. It's not a particularly good schedule for them this week. I don't think that Ellis is going to have fantasy value as long as they're healthy, and this game certainly seems to indicate that that's indeed the factor. On the Chicago side, no Kobe White and no Ayo Dosunmu, so Lonzo Ball got a start in this game. That was kind of a fun little footnote. He played 26 minutes at 15 points, 3 assists, and a block. He just makes things happen, man. Lonzo makes things happen. 26 minutes is still not quite enough long-term, but we are now at that point, I think, where you kind of have to put him on your roto roster, probably your roto bench, and squat on him and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Head-to-head, he's not going to play in back-to-backs, I wouldn't think. Chicago has a back-to-back Tuesday, Wednesday, so we'll get an idea of whether Lonzo's playing in those at that point. So head-to-head, he's kind of a tough call. Roto, I think Lonzo's an ad right now, just to sort of see how the next couple of weeks shake out. Oklahoma City beat Washington. Before we get to that, Ayo Dosunmu apparently is getting closer. He's scrimmaging with the player development coaches and the low-minute players today because they're trying to get him ramped up a little bit. The hope is they could get him back perhaps as soon as Wednesday. That's the Bulls and Hawks game, I believe we were just looking at. So not tomorrow, but the following day. And the minutes won't be enough. But again, Ayo remains one of my favorite active stash types once he comes back. Once he comes back and the minutes start to move up a little bit. I guess that's sort of maybe that was understood, but important, I think, for me to say it anyway. What does that do to Lonzo Ball? I don't know. And what does Kobe White coming back do to Lonzo Ball? Also, and I don't know. That's why you're not adding him in head-to-head, and that's why with Roto, you're putting him on your bench. But again, if his minutes continue to tick upward, and we know the Bulls are trying to shop Vooch. We know they're trying to shop Levine. There are pathways to more, but it's also why I like Io so much, because when he gets up to actual full health, he'll play 30 minutes. He just needed a little bit more usage. Io and Denny Avdia are probably the two guys that are the easiest stash types. And now that I'm resettled, and you guys can tell by the backdrop, now that I'm back in my actual home, and hopefully, knock on wood, to stay, it seems pretty calm around here right now. I can start to reach out to everybody to do a series of stash episodes of the show. I wanted to start doing those already, but again, kind of waylaid by the fire for a week. Also, stay tuned. We will have a fundraiser live show coming up at some point. I haven't figured out when or with whom, but the hope is to get as many analysts in on that as possible. Thunder blew out the Wizards. You can pretty much throw this box score out on the Thunder side. Anybody that needed to do stuff did stuff, and then other folks that did stuff did stuff. Other than Cason Wallace, whose minutes have trended back up again. And remember, for a while, he was a punt points option when he was getting around 30 minutes a ball game. That number has started to inch back up again lately, where he's been at 30 or better in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 8 games, 8 of his last 9, actually. And in those games, he doesn't score. I mean, he's double-digit scoring in only 3 of them. But the steals are massive. The assists are a little better. That's kind of what you're looking for out of Wallace. I'll admit, if the minutes go down, he gets bad really fast because he doesn't do much besides get steals. And it's why I remain somewhat hesitant. But I do think punt points, he's rosterable. This is Cason Wallace. Washington is a whole thing right now. And again, this ball game was over early, so the minutes are all over the map. Let me just hit you with the quick version on this. Kyle Kuzma, who we drafted in exactly 0 places because we didn't want him anywhere. If you ended up with Kuz going against my draft advice, my current advice to you is hold on to Kuzma until he has a good game or two and then try to sell him off. Jordan Poole's a hold. Bub Carrington is more of a watch list guy or a schedule play. Jonas Valanciunas, to me, like, I think I've called him the softest hold in fantasy basketball. He's probably schedule play level. And I don't know that anywhere he goes, he's going to get more than about 20, 21 minutes anyway. So probably schedule level. Bilal is a hold. Sarr is a hold. Brogdon is a drop until he's healthy again, and then you can pick him back up. And then everybody else is schedule. If I didn't say their name, they're schedule up. So Kispert, Keyshawn George, schedule level guys. Justin Champagnie isn't even really that right now while Kuzma's around. And so every day things change for the Wizards. So we will assess them before and after every ball game. One of the big pieces of news from Sunday is that Tyrese Halliburton left this Indiana win over the Cavaliers about halfway through due to hamstring tightness. It was the same hamstring that caused him to miss a bunch of time last year. So my guess is that they'll be pretty cautious with him. The question we all were wondering in the moment was, is this going to be good for Andrew Nembhard, TJ McConnell, or both? And in the immediate aftermath, it looks like a little bit of both. McConnell's minutes didn't change that much, but he did have 8 assists in 17 minutes. Nembhard, minutes didn't change that much, but he had 19 points, 4 assists, and his usage should be a little bit higher. I would say make sure that Nembhard is rostered. He's going to be a guy that gets added quicker because of the 19 points, but let's keep an eye on McConnell because if he has an even half-decent first half in Indiana's next ball game, I'd probably add him in Roto. Head-to-head, you probably don't need to do anything because Indiana's in a terrible, one of the worst scheduling stretches that I can remember in my life. They have a 3-2-2 coming up. Yikes. Try to survive that if you're relying on key pacers for your head-to-head rosters. That is yucky poo stuff. So keep an eye on that. And again, even if you pick someone up like a Nembhard, you might end up dropping them after Saturday of this week. Cavaliers finally missed some shots. That's kind of the long and short of it. They'll be fine. No fantasy notes. Philly was without Joel Embiid. I think they're hoping to have him back for one half of the upcoming back-to-back. My guess would be that he plays in the second half of that back-to-back because that gives him an extra day to recover from the foot strain that he's dealing with. That would be against New York on Wednesday. So you may get one more game of possible Gershon Yabusele stream, who didn't do much in this one, but if he plays 39 minutes next game, you keep streaming. Kelly Oubre is a stream when Embiid is out. Also, there's no way you could convince me to stream Eric Gordon. No. Orlando, I honest to God don't know if this team's going to make it through the year with enough bodies to actually field a roster. Goga Batadze went down relatively early in this ball game, a hip contusion. Tristan De Silva left early with an illness, so hopefully that one's only a short-term thing. And you would have thought that with Goga going down, Wendell Carter Jr. might be even the tiniest bit involved, but nope. Instead, and again, Paolo Banchero is getting himself ramped up to what's going to be one of the truly insane usage runs that we've seen in our lifetimes with everybody that's out for the Magic. Cole Anthony is still the other guy. So hang on to Cole Anthony. If you picked him up for a stream when everybody was out, he has continued to be fantasy useful, even with Paolo back. And I don't know if that's going to stick when Paolo's at full bore, but it's sticking right now. So hang on a little bit longer on Cole Anthony. And Jonathan Isaac, 27 minutes. Now, obviously, if he plays 27 minutes, he's a second round type of guy. I cannot possibly imagine a universe where Jonathan Isaac's body doesn't decompose if he tries to play 27 minutes again. We've seen this way too many times to know he can't handle it. Orlando's off for a couple of days, so if you're in head-to-head, you're not doing anything today or tomorrow with these guys. Anyway, Roto, if you want to pick up Jonathan Isaac, go for it. And I probably will myself in a Roto league or two, and I'm going to stick him on my bench to see how many minutes he gets if Goga misses time. But, I mean, if they try to play Jonathan Isaac 27 minutes nightly, he simply won't make it. Hang on to Goga if you can. Hang on to Cole Anthony until he stops playing 38 minutes and getting all the shots and whatnot. Isaac would be a spec out on the games cap side only, and that's probably about as far as I go. You can watch list Wendell Carter Jr. if you want. New Orleans damn near came back and beat the Boston Celtics, who are hitting a weird kind of mid-season dog days sort of lull. Yves Missi is a little bit of a risk of a drop. I'm going to hang on a little bit longer. Overall, though, the Pelicans, now that they got Zion and Trey back, they've moved back into a start-the-starters posture. And until they pull the plug, you're not doing anything with any of these other guys. Celtics had their guys in this game, and they still almost doinked it, so no real notes there. Peyton Pritchard's been in not a tailspin, but he's definitely cooled off after a crazy first 2 months of the year. He's just sort of falling back where we figured he would be anyway. Not a buy, not a sell, really. Just kind of sitting on Pritchard. Brooklyn and Utah had themselves a good old-fashioned tank off, and Brooklyn won it, or lost it. Depends on what you wanted to see out of this one. Noah Clowney threw up a goose egg. Oof. Here's the thing, guys. He had a big ball game in there. I'll admit there was one big one. He went 9 for 20 shooting. He had 29, 6, and 3. Overall, his fantasy game has disappeared. He's shooting the free throw well, but he's mostly just bombing away and missing. I don't know, man. He's highly rostered because we saw him do a lot of really cool stuff towards the end of last year. But very little of that has translated to this season. And I can't imagine, this is kind of the best case scenario. I know you're like, well, what if the team goes into tank mode? They're already in tank mode, guys. D'Lo's out. Cam Thomas is out. Cam Johnson is out. The only other guy that might be out for a game would be Ben Simmons, who sits on half of a back-to-back. Clowney's got to do something with this opportunity. I don't, we could talk active stash. That's a possibility with him. He's just not a 9-cat guy right now. Nick Claxton is someone you're holding, especially if you're punting free throws. But otherwise, I mean, it's a tough hold, I admit it. But more in the free throw thing. Tosan. He had 22 on a big shooting night, so I'm not doing anything with that. Tyrese Martin has been pretty active, but his percentages have been very, very bad, so I would call him a schedule play. Clowney's a schedule play. Keon Johnson is probably a schedule play. Zaire Williams is a schedule play. Ben Simmons is more of a games cap play with all of these guys out because he's not going to play in back-to-back. So there's all this stuff going on with the Nets. There's basically no one on this team that you can reliably drop into a games cap lineup and not think about a little bit. Claxton would be the closest. Simmons would be the second closest right now while everybody is hurt. We just want to get the 3 guys back that actually have consistent, legitimate fantasy value. The other name I would like to talk about would be Zaire Williams. I just sort of threw him in there in passing. His fantasy game has looked kind of good lately. And the 32 minutes were notable here. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to Zaire when Cam Thomas comes back. My guess is that his role shrinks considerably. D'Lo is probably the closest, although I guess Cam Johnson's not that far away as well. So what do we do? It's kind of why I'm treating them all as schedule plays right now. If uh, I don't have any Nick Claxtons, he was somebody I avoided on draft day because I thought he was way too expensive for more of a punt free throw type. I do have Ben Simmons on one roster, and I am dropping him in on the games he's playing with all three of the other usage guys hurt. The one I'm considering right now, I'll admit, is Zaire Williams. Because if everybody's out for the Nets' next ball game, nobody's coming back. If that's the case, I think Zaire is the guy I would trust the most from all these weirdos. And speaking of weirdos, the Utah Jazz have their own large chunk of weirdos. Colin Sexton, last man standing, took 20 shots, didn't have a great ball game, but obviously startable with 20 shots. And then you had all this other stuff. Walker Kessler got a day off for rest. If that ever happens again, we've got a real nice Drew Eubanks sighting going on. But I don't know that you could guarantee that would happen again. Kyle Filipowski could pick up some minutes. Micah Potter could pick up some minutes at center. If Markkanen was healthy, they could have rolled him at center a little bit. John Collins would have been a center. He would have been the first choice, but he's also out. Everybody's out. Jazz had 5 key rotation guys out in this game. Kessler, who was out for rest, so hopefully short. Markkanen, lower back spasms, which also felt a little bit like the same back stuff, and maybe they were just kind of going easy on him. John Collins has been out for a while. Keontae George has been out for a while. Jordan Clarkson's still out. This is a goober situation. If this is the lineup we see again, Isaiah Collier seems to have the most well-rounded fantasy game. And I wouldn't expect him to score 23 points, but he's been rebounding and passing, so that's notable. Drew Eubanks, I do not trust. Even if he starts again, I'd have a hard time trusting him unless all of these guys are out. Like if Walker Kessler came back, I could probably still get on board with starting Collier. Micah Potter's a no. Bryce Sensabaugh, if you need some scoring, is a possibility. And then the rest of these guys are just not even all that close. What a team right now. Charlotte, they've got 4 guys you can start. That's easy. Wonderful. Ball, Bridges, Williams, Miller. Move on. Phoenix, Grayson Allen was kind of moving into a really interesting spot and basically left this ball game at halftime with knee soreness, which is a damn shame because the shot was coming around. He looked like he was kind of finding his rhythm, and boink, down he goes again. Tyus Jones is a wreck all of a sudden. He's been the big loser in this new Phoenix alignment. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, these guys are starting. I know Beal's coming off the bench, but he played 35 minutes off the bench, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Tyus Jones, Benjamin Roto, head-to-head, try to give him one more week if you can. If you can't, I get it, because it does kind of look like they're going another direction there. You don't want any centers. Don't take a plunge down that. Keep one eye on Royce O'Neal, but you don't need to do anything there yet, and I'm not adding Ryan Dunn. Grayson Allen was someone that I picked up in a few spots. I'm going to try to hold until we at least know what's happening. Phoenix plays every other day starting Tuesday of this week. That's the way it is until Wednesday of next week. It's kind of a light schedule spell for them after going 5-7. So head-to-head, I would kind of understand if you moved on from Grayson Allen, who would only have a 3-game week anyway. Roto, try to hang on, if only because there aren't that many other great options out there. Let's go back to Saturday, if the internet would accommodate. There we go. Utah, we talked about already. Phoenix, we talked about already. Toronto. Emmanuel Quickley is questionable for the Raptors' next ball game with some hip soreness. If he misses that game, you could maybe squeeze Grady Dick into your lineup. Hey-oh. Hey-oh. Stop it, Dan. RJ Barrett. This is why. This is why. You guys can keep yelling at me that he's like a guy that you need to have on rosters. If you're playing traditional 9-cat, I maintain that I don't think RJ Barrett has to be on rosters. If you are punting free throws, that's your RJ Barrett path. To me, I wouldn't have him any other way. Oh, man, that's a rough one. Detroit. I'm I like Detroit, man. They're tough this year. They just play hard nosed. They're a game over 500. I know the East is whack, but whatever. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 7 threes. I think he had 6 a couple games back also. He's just going on a heater. I don't want anything to do with it. Pistons that I'm starting are Cade, Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren, and Malik Beasley. I start Thompson the next time he has an explosion game you try to sell again. I know the steals are nice, but this is what most of the games are like. And then you had that one huge one, and everybody was like, Dan, you're an idiot. I was like, well, yeah, I am, but not because of this. Tim Hardaway Jr. would be a schedule play. That's where he falls into that kind of filler range. Memphis. Ja Morant is now 6. At some point, he'll play like 7 consecutive ball games. If Ja Morant is out, I think I would probably look at Luke Kennard over Scottie Pippen Jr., but maybe I'm wrong on that one. Maybe you just do nothing. If Ja plays, our lives kind of get simple again. Zach Edey, borderline, but I would hold. And it's interesting to see Jalen Wells play 31 minutes here, despite the fact that Santi Aldama's back. I don't think that Jalen Wells has like rest of season appeal for 9-cat, but it was interesting to see the minutes hold. Yeah, nothing big with the Grizzlies. Edey's a hold, and play Ja Morant by ear and play his backups by ear a little bit. Dante DiVincenzo, huge ball game. He's been on rosters for a while. Naz Reid continues to sort of push up the board. Gobert left this game briefly, so the minutes were a little bit goofball. But Naz has been really good lately. He's finally starting to come on, and he's doing it without anyone getting out of his way yet. We're still waiting on any front court injury to the Timberwolves. This is actually weird. Minnesota's played 38 games. I don't think the front court has missed a single game yet. And admittedly, I've been sort of like half out of commission for the last week because of fires and evacuations. But a quick glance shows me that Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker have played in all 38 games. Mike Conley is the only Wolves regular that's missed any time at all. That's crazy. If anyone misses any time, Naz Reid's going to go nuts. This is why I continue to hold. It's not an active stash type. Like, we are at the floor. Naz Reid is currently ranked number 126, I believe. Is that where we're at right now? Yeah, 126. This is the floor. And yeah, I admit, like, it hasn't panned out the way I expected, but also, who the hell thought their top 7 rotation guys were all going to play the first 38 games together? Which, by the way, Minnesota should be better than 28-18 with 0 injuries to deal with. 0. Keep holding. Keep firing. I'm doing Spaceballs, if anybody's wondering. Miami beat Portland. Haywood Highsmith had 5 steals. He got added everywhere, but who the hell? That's not going to last. So Miami, Wheel of Madness. That's what we've been talking about with all these sort of, they're fringe level guys. The fringe guys for Miami are Highsmith, Jovic, Jaquez, Rozier, and Duncan Robinson. There's 5 fringe level Heat players that have been basically alternating who has decent games on the fantasy side. Of late, the closest players to value have been Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Nikola Jovic. I've been getting a lot of questions over whether I would actually have these guys rostered on the roto side. Because head-to-head, if Miami has a good schedule, those guys are very playable. They're certainly inside the top 150 over this last, basically the Jimmy Butler-less run. What's that, about 2 weeks? Last 2 weeks, Jaquez is 136. Highsmith is 158. Duncan Robinson's 195, so he's been on the outside. Terry Rozier, 231. But a lot of that's because he's shooting 40%. Not that that's all that bad for him. Jovic is actually number 78. So if we're just talking about those 5 guys, Jovic over Jaquez, over Highsmith, over Robinson, over Rozier. That's the way it's been over the last 2 weeks. I don't know if that's the way it's going to stick, but in sort of the overall, Jaquez and Jovic have the easiest pathways to fantasy value. Not just because their minutes seem the safest, because Rozier's minutes are on the high side, but because they do an assortment of things. Jaquez rebounds, passes, gets steals, and field goal percent's been pretty good. Free throw's been bad, mind you. Jovic passes and gets some rebounds, shoots the 3-ball better than Jaquez. Field goal not as high, but free throw better. I'm having a lot of trouble using any of these guys against a games cap. I don't think there's a guarantee that any of these guys is inside the top 100, even with Jimmy Butler out. The closest among them would be Jovic. The second closest would be Jaquez Jr. So if that's the way you're leaning, that's the way that I would consider doing it. Would I play Nikola Jovic in the Heat's next ball game? That's tonight in LA against the Clippers, not the Lakers. Clippers defend relatively well. So, honest to goodness, I don't know. I try not to use a guy against a games cap unless I know that I'm getting a top 100 game out of him. And lately, like, it seems like that's a yes with Jovic, but it's hard to know. I'm on the fence. So this is what would end up happening to me. I would pick up Jovic, and then I would just sit him on my bench. And every time he had a game, I'd go, should I play him this time? And then I'd probably not do it because I wimp out. And then some of the time he'll have a good one, and some of the time he won't. And I'll look back and go, I should have done it. Or, I made the good call. Jovic is a guy, to me, you play against the games cap if you're falling behind in games played in your games cap league. But again, head-to-head, you can play all of those guys. Maybe not Duncan Robinson. But most of them you can play head-to-head when the schedule's good. DeAndre Ayton got a day off. I think they said it was some calf soreness, but I don't know. It could have made up almost anything. Donovan Clingan, 27 minutes because Robert Williams had a cold. I mean, anytime that Ayton is out, both other centers for the Blazers become playable. Now, obviously, with no Robert Williams, you didn't have to think about it all that much here. Clingan was the sure bet. But keep an eye on that. We are very close. We're 3.5 weeks away from the trade deadline, which is not that far away from the DeAndre Ayton shutdown deadline. This Portland team, and Jeremy Grant's just been out forever. I don't know if that's like his contract is going to be so hard to move, but shutdowns are much easier to do. So Denny Avdia is an active stash. He's been pretty good with Jeremy Grant out. Anthony Simons is scoring a lot right now. I think he's a sell guy if you can get something good for him. Nothing really changed for me for Portland. Scoot Henderson is a punt guy. Tamani Kamara is a filler level guy, so a really good schedule level dude. And again, just keep an eye on the center spot to see who's in and who's out and whether that continues. I'm trying to think if there's anybody. I feel like the Warriors. I think the Warriors were the only team that didn't go. Oh, you know what? There were some games that got postponed. So let's pivot. Let's go back to Friday. Where are you, Friday? That's Thursday. Vespers. Let's see. New Orleans we saw. Philly we saw. Milwaukee, Orlando, Golden. Okay, let's zip down to Golden State. So this game, the Warriors without Steph, without Wiggins, without Draymond, without Kuminga, who's actually hurt. Podziemski is also actually hurt. So you can kind of throw this one out. It sounds like Steph and Wiggins are due back, meaning Buddy Hield is probably going to go back to being a turd burger. So you're playing Trace Jackson Davis. You're playing Steph Curry. You're playing Andrew Wiggins. And if he plays, you can play Draymond Green. That's your Warriors breakdown. Who else played on Friday that didn't go over the weekend because of cancellations? Yeah, I mean, the Clippers and the Lakers, their games got postponed on Saturday. Or was it Saturday or Sunday? This got confusing in my brain. I think we actually talked about these games. So that would have been Thursday. I've lost it. I've lost the thread, guys. Yeah, it was Thursday. The Lakers were supposed to play Charlotte. That game also got postponed. So Lakers haven't played since Tuesday of last week, meaning we have nothing to cover there. The Clippers played in Denver on Wednesday. We've already covered that game. We don't need to redo the Clippers, but it does sound like Kawhi Leonard will probably be back. My guess would be around 21, 22 minutes. I don't think I would play Kawhi for this one, but we are getting damn close. Hornets, we talked about. Spurs, we didn't. Spurs are relatively straightforward. Sohan is a punt play, and then you've got the three main dudes, Vassell, Wemby, and Chris Paul, and that's as far as you go with San Antone. And I think, did we talk Hawks? Oh, yeah, Hawks and Rockets got iced out. That was the other one that got postponed on Saturday. Atlanta, Jalen Johnson's still out these days. That's annoying and unfortunate. Not that I don't think there's been anything super interesting on the Atlanta side here. They played in Phoenix way back on Thursday. Bogdan Bogdanovic is questionable. He actually had a slightly better ball game there. Keep one eye on Bogdan. Keep an eye on DeAndre Hunter in case Bogdanovic starts to take some of his usage. But otherwise, I'm not actually doing anything off the notes from that ball game. For the Rockets, this is where you either sell super high on Amen Thompson or you just enjoy it. That's the only Rockets note, while Jabari Smith Jr. is out. Okie dokie. That gets us through the weekend recap. Again, I don't know if there's going to be a second show today. If there is, it'll probably air like right around the end of basketball tonight. So that would be an evening drop on the program. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like, rate, and please subscribe. Follow on Twitter at Dan Besbris. Like our trade deadline live show. Is there a way that I can like share that window? Here, wait a minute. I can do this. Dan is trying to do something with a little bit of tech, and it's not working. There we go. There's the trade deadline live show. That link is in the show description. It has, as of right now, 445 pre-likes. Maybe it'll change while you guys are watching. This is not a live show, so that shouldn't happen. One person waiting, that's me. I'll be hosting with my good buddy Adam King. That's Thursday, February 6th, tentatively scheduled for 9 a.m. Pacific time, but it'll be, it might even be a little bit earlier than that. We'll see. So please go hit the like button on that show if you haven't already. It'll set the alert, and then you'll know when that bad boy drops. It's going to be a wingding, a real hootenanny. Okay. Now we're done. I'm Dan for Old Man Squad. I'll see you guys over on social media. We're going to get busy over there today while time permits. See you later.